windup and the 3-2 pitch. Swing and a drive.
You've seen them on the field wearing a uniform with a Seattle logo. But underneath the jersey, there is a heart and soul that was grown in another country, where sport
My passion, I love playing it.
is a means of survival.
Not only about baseball, but also about education.
It's a place where heroes are created off the field
It saves life.
and on it.
Nelson Cruz.
I cannot believe my eyes right now.
Tonight, over the next hour, learn how those M stars and the franchise itself are using baseball to help change lives and young minds. It's bigger than baseball, the Mariners and the Dominican Republic. Good evening tonight from Las Matas de Santa Cruz. We are about 20 miles from the Haitian border here in the Dominican Republic. This is Mariners star Nelson Cruz's hometown and where he comes back to in the offseason, and to a country which has always been a baseball breeding ground. Every day in this island nation, the sun paints the sky. Inspiration that is part of the vibrant place
I live here every day, every time.
the locals call República Dominicana.
Welcome to Dominican Republic.
It is a country where life, quite literally, imitates art. There is a rhythm here, a beat, and lots of smiles.
A pasear. Muy bien.
The Republic is a relatively young nation located southeast of Cuba in the West Indies on the island of Hispaniola. It gained independence from Spain in 1865. Santo Domingo is the capital of the Dominican Republic, a country in terms of population size equaling that of Washington and the state of Oregon, but in terms of geography is only about a quarter of the size of the Evergreen State. And it was here a guy named Christopher Columbus came after sailing the ocean blue in 1492. The ultimate dreamer who aimed to discover a new world. And where today, in the square named after Columbus, kids wearing American branded hats and shirts share a similar dream.
Le llegaste que tus rimas son patéticas. Habló de Marte o de miércoles, no puede conmigo. Yo soy más fuerte que Hércules.
It's something they may talk about in a freestyle battle in the Park Cologne, or while sipping on a homespun limonada.
The weather's nice. I mean, I say you had it with your people's nice, the weather. Plus you got the beaches, you can lay down on the sun.
That dance, that dream, circulates around one of the country's biggest exports. A sport involving a ball, a bat, and hope. Baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is part of the past. It reminds us of everything that once was good and could be again. Oh, people will come. People will most definitely come. Those words about an Iowa cornfield could very well have been written about the Dominican and the dirt lots where the game is played. A game that has been part of the fabric of this small country since the Cubans sought refuge here in 1860. The soil is rich with resources: sugarcane, coffee, bananas, and a boatload of ball players,
We love baseball.
like Seattle Mariners four-time All-Star Nelson Cruz.
That's what we do every day, all day.
What does baseball mean to the country?
Life, you know. Anyone that you ask, even those kids you ask about baseball, they know everything about baseball. All guys, the president, all the governments, you know. In general, baseball is everything, you know.
He's one of the lucky Dominicans who has found success.
It's hard to live well in the Dominican, you know. So that's, I guess, one of the ways to find out and get a better life for the people around you.
You can find players anywhere because everybody is playing baseball.
Eddie Toledo is the Mariners' director of Dominican operations and has scouted the island for 45 years. He says baseball is more than just a game for the thousands of children who live here.
The lack of the chance for the young population have, to be something important. They see the closest, way to get to be famous and have a better life is to play baseball.
In fact, many young men drop out of school to chase their baseball dreams, a life choice enabled by the fact that the Dominican Republic has one of the poorest, worst-ranking education systems of any country in the world.
Through the roads, you can see a lot of poverty. You see a lot of kids that obviously they are not in school. They are doing like shoeshine works.
A third of teens are not in school in the most rural areas, according to the most recent data. And there is significant teacher shortages, thanks in part to low pay. According to one study, most instructors earn less than $300 a month, with student ratios in many cases at near 80-1.
This is a really poor country. I mean, it's hard to find, or it's not easy on family to get the money to send the kids to go to university.
People like Robinson Cano's father, Jose, says it has incentivized trading books for ball.
They don't go to school at all. We don't have too many schools for so many people we have here. Like I said, every kid is just concentrating and playing baseball.
Other statistics also add to the equation. The fact that Dominicans now make up roughly 10% of players in the majors, and an even bigger percentage of those in the U.S. minor leagues. There is indeed something in this warm, fertile soil that has sprouted a unique dynamic and now has led a group from Seattle to try and plant some other seeds. Coming up, you will hear from Robbie Cano on his path to the majors.
I think my story says there's no limit for whatever you want to do in your life.
And how he's trying to help kids learn about something else. His teammate Nelson Cruz is also making an impact off the diamond in his home country.
When you play baseball in Dominican, not only your family get benefit, everybody around you.
He's done it with an assist from Seattle.
We have so much gear. We give it to all the fire departments on Providence, Monte Cristi. And everybody was happy. We get boots, jackets, gloves, helmets. all the equipment that they need to take care of any fire.
And the entire Mariners franchise has invested millions of dollars on the island, on the field, and in the classroom.
The lack of education, and most of the players come from the very poor families. The higher percent, they don't have a real good makeup.
That and more when Bigger Than Baseball, the Mariners and the Dominican Republic continues. Well, really, this has been a project that has been years in the making and really grew out of some casual conversations with the Mariners and also the She and I were at a Robinson Cano-led fundraiser at the Paramount Theater in Seattle a couple of years ago. And we started talking about the connection with the Dominican Republic and the Mariners' real investment in the Dominican Republic that, as we've come to find out, is really bigger than baseball. You know, a lot of people thought Robinson Cano, there was no way he was ever going to move to Seattle and play for the Mariners. He was playing for the Yankees on the East Coast. That was close to home in the Dominican Republic. His father was a Dominican Republic baseball legend, and Robinson himself now has become a legend. And in San Pedro, where he spent time as a kid, it is not the easiest place to get to, as you will see. We hired a driver named Domingo, and he picked us up in the town of Santo Domingo, which is really the biggest city in the Dominican Republic, and he had to take all of these U-turns and side roads to get us there. There was a language barrier. At one point, our photographer and I just handed the phone to Domingo and asked him to get us there. He threw up his shoulders a couple of times, and the next thing you know, we turned down a dusty road to a field that was filled by cattle. At one point, we were wondering where we were, but in some respects, this is where the Robinson Cano story in the Dominican Republic truly begins.
Very hot.
Very hot.
Yes.
Is it hot? Very hot.
It's hard to stop as new chapters are written in life, taking a glimpse at the past. That's the case in the capital city of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. Multiple monuments honor a turbulent time in this country's history: the dictator, the fighting, the independence. Once you drive past the obelisk on Avenida George Washington, you will find a man who does not have a certain time of his life in the rearview mirror. About an hour east, the sky is open, the road's still bumpy, and a hidden grandstand rises in the middle of a ragged cattle ranch, a place normally with more cows than people. Welcome to San Pedro de Macorís, considered the cradle of baseball in the Dominican Republic and Robinson Cano's hometown.
Grew up, city gave me a chance that learn how to play baseball.
This is home plate for the Seattle Mariners' 7-time All-Star, a place he built to honor his father, Jose.
All those players want to come to San Pedro and practice here.
A former major leaguer himself.
We have a lot of baseball, big league players that come in every morning.
You know, and if you make it to the major leaguer, be able to make a lot of money and be able to help your family, that's every Dominican player's dream.
Cano is living the dream back home, shagging grounders with his new M's teammate and countryman Gene Segura.
Robbie Cano, here's a swing and a drive deep into the gap in left center field. This one is going and going. Goodbye, baseball.
A shy fellow Dominican who is leaning on Robbie in more ways than one.
And it's a real huge human.
Segura spent the winter shacking at the Cano house.
I mean, he lives like 2.5 hours away from my house. So what he did, he just stays there Monday to Friday, and on the weekends he go back home and spend time with his family.
Gene is just one of the many ball players who spent their vacation with the M Slugger, drawn by his facility, support system, and story.
We got Candelario from the Cubs. He played Major League this year. We got Eduardo Núñez, Osuna, Polanco, Encarnacion, William Opeña, and myself. We got a pretty good group.
While acting as a bit of a senior statesman for the next generation, you see, Cano has a different perspective on the game which made him famous. A game thanks to his dad's career, which allowed him to get an education in New Jersey during his formative years.
You know, I feel bad because I was one of those guys that I had a chance that play, be able to go to school and be able to, you know, play baseball, not to worry about if there's gonna be food on the table tomorrow. You go to school, you'll be able to get lunch. I mean, that's really different. The culture is really different because there's more about education than anything else.
That's not the case in the Dominican, which has an educational system widely considered among the worst in the world, along with a reputation which has lingered.
I used to hear players in the past, oh, the Dominican, they're not that smart. They don't have education, so that's something that always stick with me.
So you think that other baseball players don't think Dominicans are smart?
Well, I used to hear that. Even from other countries, they used to say it right on my face, oh, Dominican, you guys don't have education. You guys do this, you guys do that. So, I mean, even joking, that's something that as a player, is really bothering me. So but that was when I was in minor leagues.
So people in the minor leagues would say, "Oh, you're from the Dominican Republic. You're not very smart."
Yeah.
And that angered you, I can only imagine.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you know what is really like, it bothered me because they don't know the situation.
The situation is bleak in some of the smaller towns. Why do you think that a lot of people don't have access to education?
Well, because of school. I mean, they don't go to school at all. We don't have too many schools for so many people we have here. Like I said, every kid is just concentrating and playing baseball.
People don't realize or people don't know all those things those kids have to go through.
Cano believes lack of education also breeds a lack of confidence. But it sounds like this comes from a very personal place for you because of that anger from a decade or more ago.
It does. I mean, for me, it's hard when you see guys and they don't want to talk on TV, and it's hard for you to do an interview, and it's not that they don't want. It's just because of the low education that they have in their life. They kind of like afraid to pronounce. You know, I don't know how to say this word the right way. So a lot of them, they don't want to be on TV or they don't want to do an interview because of that.
That's why the Mariners' second baseman has redoubled his efforts to provide educational opportunities and make this republic better. Coming up,
this is a really poor country. I mean, it's hard to find.
How Cano is attempting to help young minds.
Hola.
Inside a dream school. Win bigger than baseball. The Mariners and the Dominican Republic continue. So we're very interested in hearing about Robbie Cano and his upbringing. A lot of people just look at this guy and know he played for the Yankees in a big market, now plays for the Mariners, came here on a big contract and all of that. Robbie has a different perspective than a lot of ball players who come from the Dominican because he spent time in his youth in the United States. So he has seen the educational system in the Dominican Republic and he's seen it in the United States as well. And everybody that we talked to, including Robinson Cano, just told us how bad the system is there in one of the worst in the world. And he has made this really kind of a keystone effort off the field to help the system in the Dominican Republic and build a school there. And again, Domingo is the guy who took us there, our guardian angel, the driver. He took us into this extremely poor neighborhood in San Pedro de Macorís, and we got to this school and we were just taken aback by how cute these kids were at the school, immediately running up to us saying hola and hugging us and looking into camera, they were just fascinated by camera and seeing what exactly he was doing with it. They gave us some water. It almost brought a tear to the eye when you saw just how cute these kids were and what they're up against. Robinson Cano is among the fortunate favorite sons, a ball player who received a somewhat normal education. Here, most kids don't know the meaning of traditional class times.
Because here you only go from 8 to 12, 8 to 1. So what they do, you just go home and eat. Not in the States, you go until 2:45.
The Mariners star is attempting to make changes here from the ground up. Far off the beaten path, down the dusty, debris-ridden roads of the barrio in Cano's hometown of San Pedro de Macorís, past the graffiti-scarred houses and chaotic streets, there is a shimmering beacon.
Hola. Hola. Hola.
Welcome to the RC22 Dream School, fully funded by Cano's Foundation. The building opened in November of 2015 after several months of construction. A big piece of the financing came after a fundraiser the same year at Seattle's Paramount Theater and helped to make what was one of Robbie's dreams a reality.
As you see, it's a really poor community, so we're trying to provide to all of them the opportunity to have a qualified education.
Jalissa Tejada is the school director.
Crime in that community and also prostitution. This is really, really high. A lot of more than the
average.
Yeah.
Dice buzo al papá, sigue ese bote.
This is our library.
It is Montessori style.
Bus.
In our culture in Dominican Republic, we don't really read a lot. We want to create a new culture in education.
More than 100 kids attend the school who may not otherwise have an early childhood education.
This methodology, Montessori methodology, the idea with this methodology is to provide the children opportunity to be independent. Sensory, so they can feel like the number, the texture. They are working with sensory art activity.
The school aims to paint a different story for the girls and boys, a foundation for future success. All of these kids come from the neighborhood or barrio, and they are, thank you, invited to apply for this school. After a selection process, the kids are allowed to enroll here absolutely free of charge. Their faces tell the rest. The children are mentally and physically nourished.
3 meals.
3 meals, like breakfast, a meal, and a snack.
Tejada says the only thing the school asks for is for parents to also be involved.
That is an obligation.
The smiles are abundant for the kids and for Tejada too.
You are in the best school here, and you can make whatever you want. They are really shy. They are really tiny children, but we are changing their life. We are changing their mind. I feel happy because I be part of the chance. I want this chance because this is my country. They are my child.
The Dream School already has had its first graduating class. Cano's shadow looms large over it all.
You go little by little.
Cano says he'd like to build more, but for now, it's a small step forward at a time in his career when he's not afraid to look back, talking about either his or his country's future.
What is the name of the person in the story?
Coming up, Robinson Cano is not the only one trying to improve Dominican education. The Seattle Mariners have an academy where teachers play a prominent role.
It's important. The education you gotta have in your life.
And later, what does baseball mean to the country?
Life, you know.
Slugger Nelson Cruz used to rebuild cars. Now he's doing the same in his hometown. That story and more when Bigger Than Baseball, the Mariners and the Dominican Republic continues. So really, this is what prompted this whole trip to the Dominican Republic. A Mariners executive casually mentioning to me what the franchise is trying to do on that remote island. You know, every major league franchise has tried to build a pipeline to the Dominican Republic and the players there. You know, what separates the M's is they have tried to build a facility out of nothing, out in the middle of nowhere, to try and bring in young players and help educate their young minds. And it was there that we met a guy named Martin Valerio. He is a smart, on-point guy who has made something for himself. We went to go get some cash from the local ATM. He took us there to the bank, and when we were walking out of the bank, he says, "I've got to show you something," and takes us to this bank in Boca Chica that, no joke, had a Hall of Fame for every player that has played in the major leagues from the Dominican. We are talking about Juan Marichal and Adrian Beltre, and just go down the list. It's at the local bank in Boca Chica with all of their uniforms up and pictures. It's that big of a deal. Then we went back to this academy, and Martin gave us a tour, and it was just eye-opening with what the Mariners have achieved there. The land is dark, desolate, unusable for farming. You got some bumps.
Yes.
Yet it is here, in a place you would least expect it, in the Dominican countryside, the Washington state flag flies high over an oasis. Welcome to the Seattle Mariners Dominican Baseball Academy, a little slice of the Emerald City, thousands of miles away from it. It's a short heave from the rural slums in the town of Boca Chica, which on a map is about a half-hour drive east of the Dominican government capital of Santo Domingo. But the modern palace might as well be here. It's where the M's Dominican Summer League manager, Cesar Nicolas, is helping to run something that is more than a camp.
Everything's going to run, you know, as it has been.
It is a developmental cornerstone for the big league club and its minor league affiliates as well.
He's ready to make that transition to go across to the States.
Every day, Nicholas leads nearly 6 dozen young Mariner prospects.
Okay, morning guys. Good morning. No, hold on. Morning guys. Morning. I wanted to say one thing really fast, okay? Yesterday we talked about developing our skills. Ayer hablamos de lo que se trata de desarrollar nuestras habilidades. ¿Verdad? Every day I try to give them just like one tidbit of something for them to kind of hold on to mentally. Today was mental toughness.
Keep the rhythm!
You ready to work hard today? Yeah? You sure? And I think the biggest thing for me to kind of instill in these guys is how to be good people.
Nicholas, the son of Dominican parents, knows this is now fertile territory.
And back, high knee.
The Mariners franchise built the academy out of scratch and thatch in 2014. Bulldozing thick brush and paving over old caves, all for a cost of $7 million. And to attract young men with big aspirations. Like an 18-year-old from Boca Chica named Osmi Gregario. They all live in the on-campus dorms, get 3 square meals, will train in the gym alongside the players in the batting cages.
Contento.
And on the fields, named after Alvin, Dan, Edgar, and Ken Griffey Jr. The Mariners acknowledge they are keeping up with other Major League franchises. All 30 teams have some sort of presence in the Dominican. But in the afternoons here, altruistic activities outweigh at-bats.
Through the roads, you know, you can see a lot of poverty. You see a lot of kids that obviously they are not in school. They are doing like shoe shine works.
Martin Valerio is one of the lucky ones. Born and raised in the Republic, he's a former banker who now oversees day-to-day operations at the academy and has watched his country's teens drop out of school to chase ambitions.
Not all the Dominicans have access to the education, unfortunately. Hopefully, our governments will do a better job, and our place will be, our kids will be able to, find a future there too.
Is it important to spend time with the family?
That's why the academy includes classroom time, all paid for by the franchise.
What is the name of the person in the story?
Players receive English, computer, writing, and high school equivalency courses like 19-year-old Dominican Chris Torres, expected to start this coming season in Everett or Peoria, and on this day has a knowing face peering over his shoulder.
It's important, dedication, you gotta have in your life.
See?
Torres says the classes have also given him
2 different words.
A sense of confidence.
You're a mechanic for the first time, you gotta talk and then ask for food or something.
Great job.
In a country where a third of rural teens are not in high school, Cesar Nicholas says the academics are important even if the young men never play professional baseball overseas.
The ability for them to kind of fit into that culture over there is going to be important for them to succeed.
Nicholas says the odds are still small to get off the island and graduate from the academy. He tells us roughly 30% of the kids that are here right now will eventually make their way to the United States. Gregario is getting his chance.
If we can at least get them to have the extended invite, then that's a bonus.
His coaches have told him he is ready for the United States. The teenager spent this spring in Arizona, but he is arguably not the biggest success story to come out of the academy this year.
Solo para quejarte. Today we want to honor you.
8 other players have a unique distinction.
Roberto Jesus Muñoz.
They are the first to earn their high school equivalency degrees here.
Steven Branche.
Something that will last longer than their playing careers.
Felicidades.
A moment in time that the M's plan to repeat on this pastoral piece of property long after the cows come home. Coming up after the break.
Well, this is home, This is where I feel comfortable. This is where I feel welcome, I know everybody and everybody knows me.
Why Nelson Cruz continues to come back to the Dominican Republic and what he's doing to make it better.
The most important thing is health and security, Health and security, that's the most important thing.
That's when Bigger Than Baseball, the Mariners and the Dominican Republic continues. Nelson Cruz's story is also about education and a father who said to stay in school when so many of his friends and teammates were dropping out of school to pursue a baseball career in the Dominican Republic. But to get to Nelson Cruz, it was kind of a special adventure. We told you about Domingo, our driver, who took and I on some of the craziest roads we have ever seen. The Dominican Republic is consistently rated as having some of the worst roads and highways in the Western Hemisphere, and if not the world. We are talking about 3 widths of cars on 2 lanes of roadway. Tough to navigate that, especially with cattle and people walking, people jumping over freeway barriers, wild animals, and lots of motorcycles. In fact, there are more people registered to drive a motorcycle than a car in the Dominican Republic. It is the preferred method of transportation to get around. So you can imagine all of those people weaving around on a 4-hour drive to the northern part of the Dominican. And Domingo, our guardian angel, he would just kind of smile through it all and kind of throw up his hands every once in a while, and then he would also hit the brakes, especially in the dark, because really a lot of people don't drive with their lights on in the Dominican. And I kind of looked at each other and said, what is he doing? Well, he had spotted something 100 yards away. It might have been a cow or a person walking on the road. Domingo saw it and kept us safe and was able to get us there to Nelson's hometown. And I can tell you that once we got there, it really was something to see in terms of the level of poverty and the needs in Cruz's hometown. This is a road less traveled. A road scattered with debris, animals, and years of decay. Yet, it's the unusual path that Mariners All-Star Nelson Cruz took on his way to the big leagues. Cruz's hometown of Los Matas de Santa Cruz is a 4-hour drive from the Dominican Republic capital of Santo Domingo, 20 miles from the Haitian border. Just to get here, you have to dodge potholes, people, and motorcycles on some of what the World Health Organization calls the deadliest roads on Earth.
Nelson Cruz, what a story.
That's Eddie Toledo, a longtime Dominican scout who discovered a young Nelson nearly 2 decades ago.
I remember I said, hey, what's your name? I said, Nelson. I said, you like baseball? Well, I'm studying doing that. What you do for your life? He said, I work with mechanic.
That's me right here.
Yep, the guy known as the Boomstick thought he'd be known as a basketball player or in his small town simply as the mechanic. Toledo thought so too.
He was very, very crude. No idea how to play baseball.
He was telling us a story yesterday of how he found
How
you.
bad I was? I wasn't ready. That's what he said, probably, yeah.
He played a doubleheader and he couldn't touch the ball in the 2 games, about 7 or 8 at bats.
Eddie was saying like he went to your first game and you struck out like 8 times or something. He said
it was 3 times.
In fact, Cruz's father, a teacher, also named Nelson, suggested his son finish his education.
So I had to go to the academy. And my dad was, no, you need to first finish school, and then when he finishes, he can go and play baseball. Because I don't grow my kids to be a baseball player, you know. It's not for sure I'm gonna be a big league player, but I can have my career done and be whatever I want to be, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a mechanic like I was doing.
Cruz's high school principal says the mechanic, like the engines he worked on, was driven. What kind of student was Nelson?
He was a special kind of student, you know, and he was always following his goal, even in the classroom and outside the classroom.
Cruz balanced books and baseball.
My child's home is right here. See that truck? That's my mom's and my dad's house. Yeah, it used to be open right here, and then we play baseball from here to there. It wasn't that much traffic back then. If you hit it to the house, it was homers. So that was my goal.
That childhood home is now a shrine to what has happened since.
This is for my first All-Star home run derby.
From his minor league struggles,
I guess this is 2005.
There's one! To major league stardom.
This is my room. I mean, was my room, I guess.
That's the whole family right there.
That's from the Futures game.
Cruz has never forgotten his humble beginnings or his parents. You're smiling. He built an off-season estate here, complete with his accomplishments. And gym, where he stayed in shape. His family, including 4-year-old daughter Giada, by his side. And a couple blocks away,
we are going to the baseball field.
This field was essentially just dirt before Nelson Cruz found his major league success. Once he did, he spent $60,000 of his own money putting down the grass, building the grandstand and the dugouts so the local kids would have a place to play.
It was in bad shape, so I'm proud, you know?
The only wear and tear here now comes from the daily sessions, which can last hours. Voila. It's not the only thing the mechanic has fixed in his hometown. The rest of his story after a short break. On the side streets of Los Matas de Santa Cruz, you can see the issues. Nelson Cruz says he sees them every time he comes home.
So how the 17, when I used to play with the old team.
He bought a fire engine for the volunteer fire department after a childhood friend lost his home.
One of my friend's house just burned completely because we don't have a fire truck.
And later, filled the station with donated gear from the Seattle Fire Department.
We get boots, jackets, gloves, helmets, all the equipment that they need to take care of any fire.
So the fire station didn't have an ambulance before? He followed that up with the purchase of an ambulance, so his neighbors in need could be transported to the nearest major hospital an hour away.
If you know how far we are from Santiago, that's where the main hospitals are. If you are very sick, you need to take those people there. So the ambulance, they've been carrying a lot of people there. And when we got it in Texas, they put everything. They put the name and the city.
The local firefighters say it has saved lives. Has this police station always been here? Or?
Yeah, 40 years. Been like that for 40 years.
His newest project is the police station, currently a plywood shack. Always been the same size?
Mm-hmm. Same. I donate the motorcycle because they don't have any transportation.
What happens if there's an emergency? They just walk somewhere? Or?
Before that, yeah. They have to ask somebody, take me there.
Cruz recently helped break ground on a new location.
Right now, we only have 3 policemen.
For a count of 20,000.
Yes, so when we build this, it's supposed to have 6 or 7.
Nelson's uncle, the town mayor, told us the gifts are huge. He told us everything Nelson does is blessed from God, including the fire truck and the ambulance.
We love him.
Romero, the one-time Mets scout, now Mariners administrator, who plucked Cruz from obscurity, speaks through watery eyes.
But I tell you what, I'm very proud of Nelson. Just not because the kind of player he's been, just the kind of human being he is.
Romero says the boomstick should be described in softer terms.
He's a teddy bear. This guy is special.
If you're a poor kid, like most of we are, come from a poor family, that's the way to come up and help your parents, help the community.
Nelson Cruz says he's just heading down a trail that started here so many years ago, when he was like one of the kids now playing on his neighborhood field, but with a dream and a dad who told him life was bigger than baseball. What has compelled you to do all that?
I think I live it, I see this every day and I see the needs. Stuff behind the scenes that nobody sees, that only myself know about it. So they moved me to do it, But like I said, I think everything starts from him.
From your dad?
He's the main reason, because I learned it from him.
It all helps explain the power of this sport here.
To get to be famous and have a better life and give the better things for the future of his family is to play baseball.
How it captures the imagination of the entire country.
In general, baseball is everything,
What did we just witness?
And also lifts it up in more ways than one. Sure, you could say these are just small steps to fix some of the inequities here in the Dominican Republic, but guys like Nelson Cruz, Robinson Cano, and the Mariners franchise believe these are issues that are bigger than baseball. I'm Chris Daniels in Los Matas de Santa Cruz in the Dominican Republic. Thanks for watching this special presentation. We'll see you this season at Safeco Field.